Starting the following new paragraph immediately after the proposed new paragraph BB with a BC to secure and regulate the use of e-health in cancer management and the provision of cancer diagnosis, treatment and rehabilitation services and other medical care related to cancer. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I propose the question that clause 3 as amended be amended as proposed by the Vice Chair. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I just thought I would use this opportunity to remind the House that even as we discuss about amending the Cancer Prevention Bill, we also need to remind ourselves that despite a petition that I brought before this House in 2019, which can help us further prevent cancer by ensuring the removal of 262 pesticide products that have been confirmed by world science as causing cancer. In fact, they were not only confirmed by world science, but persons who developed cancer as a result of those pesticides continue to be sold in this country. Yet the persons in the United States and Europe got an order from the United States Superior Courts in California where the farmers were paid up to $250 million for developing cancer as a result of the use of these pesticides. So if we truly, and I'm asking the honorable member who has brought this amendment, that if we are truly committed to this cancer prevention, then the first stop is to stop the products that are clearly causing cancer and are known. And this has been brought before the Pest Products Control Board several times. They have been incorrigible. They have continued to be in bed with the agrochemical companies. And in fact, recently, I know they were appearing before the Health Committee. And Honorable Member, you know very well, you were a member of the Health Committee when I appeared before the Health Committee. The Health Committee, instead of ordering that those products be removed from the Kenyan market, the committee was irresponsible by leaving it back to the vultures who are the Pest Products Control Board, telling them, please remove them from the market. So far, since 2019, they have only removed 7 products. The rest continue to remain on the market. Roundup, people who got, it was confirmed, Roundup gave people cancer. They were removed from the markets abroad. But here in Kenya, they are being resold under a different name. All those products are in our market. It is known to the authorities. It is known to the Health Committee. So actually, what we are doing in amending that bill is counterproductive. The real amendment should be dealing with this. And I think it's one of the things we should be asking in the House, why is the Health Committee not acting? The first Health Committee in the 12th Parliament did not act. The second Health Committee in this 13th Parliament has not acted. The Pest Products Control Board has not acted. The Ministry of Agriculture has not acted. Yet these are known facts. And those products are actually manufactured in Europe and America. But in those countries, they are not allowed to be used. They are allowed to manufacture them for export to foolish countries like Kenya, who are foolish enough to allow the product into their country to continue to kill their members of public. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Yeah, the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, and you may make your comments short. Make the comments short.
Madam Chair, mine will be very short.
I'll give you a chance because your committee has been mentioned.
The Deputy Speaker, I agree with her, but that really belongs to the third reading. Me, I'm just coming up to support the amendments. And in the third reading, I'll also actually support her further. But I do support these amendments. I have actually made a proposal before for similar amendments, so I support these ones. Like in number 1, persons with was actually superfluous. It just needed to end with management and treatment. You didn't have to add persons with. So that I support. The word treatment to be replaced by management makes sense because treatment is narrow. It's just the application of medicine, while management is more comprehensive, indicating nutrition, psychological care, and all those. So I support that. And then 3, the e-health. I support this, but again, in the third reading, we have noticed something that as much as we are very keen with digitization, there are problems that are arising. So, Madam Speaker, I support the amendments.
The Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Chair, I start on behalf of the Health Committee to say two things. One, I've had a long discussion with the Deputy Speaker, Madam Chair, on the issue of pesticides in this country and regulation of pesticides in this country. It's an issue I've conversed with her severally, and it's true I sat in the last Parliament in the Health Committee, and she brought that matter in Parliament, and it was brought to the Health Committee. But the Health Committee didn't behave irresponsibly, Chair. We sent the matter to the responsible organ, the PCB, and we have discussed with the Deputy Chair that we have a problem at Pesticide Control Board. As she has put it lightly, they are in bed with these companies. Because, Chair, in this country, you go to a company that is doing agriculture, maybe vegetables, onions, and you find there are two categories of vegetables. One meant for Kenyan, and two meant for export. There are chemicals that they can't use for those that are meant for export. Those that are meant for export, they use good chemicals, but those that are to be consumed locally, Chair, they use these pesticides that have been banned across the country. So,
Thank
Chair,
you. Vice Chair, then I order that the matter concerning the petition
Yes,
be
Chair.
handled differently,
Yes,
so
Chair.
that we can focus on
Chair.
this
We
bill.
just need to
But
address that petition
as the Deputy Speaker was supporting the amendment,
Yes.
she has actually raised a very important matter, which you can pick up at another time.
yes, and I'm
So thank
concurring
you
with
very
that,
much.
Chair. What she has listed is true, and she has talked to me severally on the same.
Thank you. The Honorable Gikaria will be the last one on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Speaker, Chair, I want to support the Deputy Speaker. Honorable Chair, and more so to reiterate on the Committee on Implementation. The Committee on Implementation, once Parliament has spoken, the required period of time that is supposed to be taken, and then the Committee of Implementation should take up that matter and be able to make a follow-up. If a decision had already been done, and maybe the ministry is lagging its feet, then again the Committee on Implementation. And rightly, as the Deputy Speaker said, Honorable Chair, we must stop this madness where people, they cause cancer, they send us to us, they don't use it in their country. Then they bring it here. At the same time, again, we are supposed, or we are forced to buy medicine from the same. Honorable Chair, I think as much as we support this, what the Deputy Speaker has said should be taken into consideration with a lot of seriousness.
Thank you. You have made your point. Honorable members, I now put the question that clause 3 as amended. I'll take that again. I now put the question that clause 3 be amended as proposed by the Vice Chair. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 3 as amended be part of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
I now propose the question that clause 4 be part of the bill. It has an amendment, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that clause 4 of the bill be amended by deleting the proposed new subsection 3 and substituting thereof the following new subsection 3. The Institute shall collaborate with the national government, universities, colleges, and the private sector to promote the training of oncology professionals. By the Institute, Chair, we are referring to the Cancer Institute of Kenya. I move, Chair.
Thank you. I propose the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the Vice Chair. I don't see any interest in this. There is interest on board, Dr. Nyikal?
Always. Thank you, Chair. I rise to support this. Cancer is an important issue. And if you do not have collaborative effort, you really cannot. Therefore, these amendments brings universities, colleges, private sector, and training institutions, particularly the training of oncologists. That's where the thing lies. So This is a very, very important amendment, and I support.
The Honorable Owen Bayer, do you have interest in this? No. I now put the question that clause 4 be amended as proposed by the Vice Chair. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 4 be, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 2.
I propose the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. There be no amendment. I put the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? I am going to take that again. Will as many as have of that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we have come to the end. I would like now to call the mover to move reporting. The Honorable Dawood.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, Bill number 2, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2022 and its approval thereon with amendments.
Thank you, Honorable Dawood. I now put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill, number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2022, and its approval with amendments. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, having established that the Honorable David Gikaria CBS is in the House, we now move to the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2022.
Clause 2.
Honorable members, I propose that clause 2 be part of the bill. There be no amendment. I now put the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as have that... I now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as have that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? I am going to take that again. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, I thank you very much. We have concluded the 3 bills that were to be considered this morning. And before I call upon the mover, to move reporting, I would like to welcome our guests. Honorable members, seated in the Speaker's Gallery this morning, we have Thika High School for the Blind from Thika constituency, Kiambu County. I welcome you to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. Honorable members, I would like to call the Honorable Gikaria to move reporting.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2022, be now read a third time, and also request Honorable Kengara, Honorable to second.
Thank you, Honorable Gikaria. Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2022, and its consideration without amendments. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we are now going back to plenary.
Honorable members, Mr. Speaker.
Can you have the mover? I call the chairperson who for reporting on the Land Amendment Bill, Bill number 40 of 2022.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Land Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 40 of 2022, and approved the same without amendments.
Thank you. The mover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Gikaria to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House. Honorable Gikaria, please.
Then do it quickly. Do it quickly then. And then you move to the next one.
I second.
Thank you. Members, I propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. If there's nobody talking on this, I'm told it's a point of order from you. Members, for obvious reasons, we will put the question on this matter in the next sitting. Yes, Honorable Nyamai. Honorable Nyamai?
I just wanted to make some comments.
We are still dealing with the Land Amendment Bill. Yes, go ahead, Mheshimiwa.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. May I start by thanking honorable members for coming early to support this amendment bill, which is going to lock public utility. Because my concern, Honorable Speaker,
the member on the floor, you just moved this for adoption.
Yeah.
You can't contribute to it.
Yeah, thank you. Due to lack of quorum,
the honorable members have guided that the question on this particular bill for adoption we put in the next sitting. So we'll move to the next bill, which is the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill, Amendment Bill number 2 of 2022. I would therefore call upon the chairperson to move.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill number 2, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2022, and approved the same with amendments.
Thank you. The move of this bill. Honorable Dawood.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee of the said report. I also request Honorable Mudhoni to second the motion for agreement with the report of the committee of the whole House.
Honorable Mudhoni. Honorable Mudhoni is in the House. Okay, go ahead. Honorable Mudhoni is up there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second this bill. Thank you.
Okay, honorable members, I therefore propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Anybody talking on this matter? The Honorable Nyamai, you wanted to contribute on this matter? No? Okay. The Honorable Fire. The Honorable Bayer.
Honorable Speaker, due to the import of the matters that have been canvassed and the reporting that has been made and the importance of these bills, Honorable Speaker, I would request that we defer to put the question in the next session when we are ready to do that. But right now, I would request that you defer putting the question. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The putting of the question on the adoption of that report on this report is accordingly deferred to the next time this bill comes up for consideration in the House. The next bill is the Penal Code Amendment Bill number 56 of 2023.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Penal Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2022, and approved the same without amendments.
Thank you, Honorable Gikaria, the mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Jane Kihara to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
The Honorable Kihara. Give the mic to Honorable Kihara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In this country, we have got laws that are outdated. We are in a free country where free movement, free speech is allowed, and some of the penalties given to people in those petty offenses must move with the times. I second.
Thank you. All members, I do propose the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Bayer.
Honorable Speaker, I beg your indulgence that we defer putting the question on this matter. It's an important matter, and it is important that this matter the question be put next time so that we can achieve what we need to achieve as a parliament. So I request and indulge you that you defer putting the question. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The decision on the adoption of that report is therefore put to the next time this report comes up for consideration in the House. Next order.
Order number 12, motion. Development of a satellite-based climate change monitoring policy. Resumption of debate.
Which member is that? Thank you. Before I call the Honorable Abdul, all members join me in welcoming students from Harambee Junior School, from Makarada constituency in Nairobi, and students from Ibiriga Day Secondary School, from Chuka, Igamangombe, Tharaka Nithi. They are welcome to follow the proceedings of the House from the public gallery. Thank you. The Honorable Abdul Haro is in the House. So, you remember we are resuming debate on the Honorable Abdul Haro's motion on the development of a satellite-based climate change monitoring policy. So there's one on the floor. If anybody wants to contribute on this, I can see the Honorable Peter Kihungi, the Honorable Nyikal, the Honorable Patrick Ntwiga. I know you want this for something else. You're allowed, but then you contribute on this matter.
Thank you, Chair. Mine was just small, Chair. I just wanted to welcome my students from Ibiriga Day Secondary School in this house and to tell them to feel welcomed. It's a school I love so much, and to follow how we do things in this house and how we serve them in this house. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Rahim Dawood, you want to contribute on this satellite-based climate change? Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to congratulate Honorable Abdul Haro on bringing this bill. Honorable Speaker, the times have changed, the world has changed. And Mr. Speaker, the kind of information we are getting regarding the weather patterns and climate change and all that, we need to move away from the manual or the systems which, Honorable Speaker, I would request if you could ask the members to...
Members on the aisle from the minority side, the Honorable Mbadi, the Honorable Atandi and company. Allow the Honorable Dawood to be able to hear himself as he contributes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Honorable Badi now wants to be the chair of ODM. So, I mean, the leader, party leader. I support him in that, although I'm not in ODM. Kingpin. Honorable Speaker, like I was saying, we need to move away from the ways in which we predict our weather due to the climate change. Mr. Speaker, we have gone very far in technology, and by this satellite-based climate change, we need to see how we are going to put the satellites which are owned by Kenya into space so that we can predict our weather more it should be more predictable and should be easier to maintain. Mr. Speaker, we should not just be doing those interventions that way. We need to see how we are going to stop the droughts affecting our people. Mr. Speaker, when we have El Nino rains, it is a pity that we cannot take advantage of all the water which just goes to waste. Instead of that water which could be used during drought seasons, Mr. Speaker. And we are expecting soon the rains will be coming, hopefully in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Mr. Speaker, we need to put interventions in place so that we can protect our people who year in, year out have droughts and are suffering. The animals are suffering, the people are suffering. Mr. Speaker, we should take an example from some countries in the Middle East who have got dry weather where they do not even have rainfall, but they still are producers of the best fruits together with vegetables. So, Mr. Speaker, with the interventions which Honorable Harrow has proposed, I think we need to go that way. We need to up our technology because we cannot be left in the archaic of 1960s. People are moving to 2200 and we are still left behind. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
For Samburu East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to put my voice in this satellite climate change. Mr. Speaker, climate change is real. There's a lot of effect due to this climate change. So it becomes very important even for monitoring what is happening. And Mr. Speaker, we are really hit by the climate change recently, and it is real. We really need to work as a country so that the climate change can be monitored easily. And when these satellites are put up, Mr. Speaker, it will try to solve this issue. And Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of things happening which we really need to monitor due to this climate change. It's a very good idea, important, it will help us. And I think, Mr. Speaker, nowadays, if you see maybe where we used to expect the rain, as maybe now we are expecting long rains in some other parts of Kenya, it may not rain due to this climate change. So I think it is very important for us to support this so that it can be easily monitored and we'll be able to tackle the climate change at this moment. So I think, Mr. Speaker, this is a very good idea, and we really need to support it so that we can see how we can go about this climate change. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
The Honorable Phyllis Bato on this matter, right?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also make a contribution on this very important motion on development of a satellite-based climate change authority policy. I would want to also thank the Honorable Member, Abdul Arrow, for bringing this motion to the House. Mr. Speaker, information technology has gained a lot of relevance in the history of mankind, and in Kenya, it should, and as a result, issues to do with climate should also be cognizant of the fact that data is very important in predicting the changes in the climate. Mr. Speaker, we have had cases of traditional usage of getting information to predict some events in the country. For example, when it's supposed to be raining, and even in matters of religion, Mr. Speaker, you will find that sometimes it is very difficult for our Muslim brothers and sisters to tell when Ramadan should begin because of the sighting of the moon. Yet, Mr. Speaker, such information can be predicted using information technology, and we will be able to budget for every issue, every idea which is about to happen. Mr. Speaker, we realize that sometimes when you want to travel, for instance, when you want to fly to maybe, for example, for me to Eldoret, or you want to travel to any part of the world, you arrive there and it is raining. Otherwise, if we take advantage of the information technology, you will be able to get information timely and know what is happening in which part of the world. Mr. Speaker, I take a case of my constituency where we are supposed to be planting. This is a planting season. The farmers are out there waiting for, they receive mixed signals on when they are supposed to plant, when they are supposed to plow the land, when they are supposed to, when they are supposed to be participating or carrying out any farming activity by just guesswork, because we don't have clear data to predict the climate patterns which farmers can take advantage of. Mr. Speaker, right now, the farmers are queuing in National Cereals and Produce Board offices, or queuing for fertilizer. And at the same time, they don't know exactly when to plant. They are just imagining it's next week, it's 2 weeks to come, it's in April, it's in May. Those who are planting maize are supposed to have, sometimes in the past, planting season was supposed to start in March. Sometimes it moves to April. The wheat farmers are supposed to be planting wheat in June, July. That information is just guesswork, Mr. Speaker. If the policy is developed and utilized so that information is timely, we will not have, the farmers are able to plan at the right, when to plant, when to harvest, and so on, because they will be having information. Mr. Speaker, information is power. And once they have information, they will be able to carry out their activities without any hitch. Mr. Speaker, we have scenarios where some places are very remote, Mr. Speaker. They don't get any information. And if we utilize this technology, we will be able to reach to the extreme parts of Kenya. A case in time is when the government now is trying to get Wi-Fi to every regions of Kenya. So if that information is distributed likewise, everybody will be able to access, and everybody is going to have that data so that they are able to make plans at the right time. Mr. Speaker, because of not having a policy, a satellite-based policy to deal with climate, we have been left with very little information, and every community or every spaces in Kenya deal with the information in bits and pieces. Everybody deals with their own information in a way that they might not know what is going to happen next. Mr. Speaker, I believe this policy is going to shape all these spaces and and guide them on what to expect. Mr. Speaker, I think even the extreme climate changes we are facing in Kenya, for example, today, the issue of drought, the issue of floods, where some parts of Kenya, people suffer from floods to an extreme that even it takes away lives. Animals die because of drought. This particular satellite-based policy is going to eradicate all this, because everybody will be having information on what is going to happen at what particular time in the year. And in that case, once you have that information, Mr. Speaker, you are going to adjust, you are going to plan your life. For instance, people are even supposed to be evacuated in flood, those areas which are supposed to be hit by the floods. And if it's done on time, so that we don't just get surprises. We don't just wake up in the morning and it is in the news that a whole village has been swept by floods. Or we realize that a whole village, animals are dying because of drought. And this information, we should have gotten it early enough for us to be able to plan, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, how I wish this satellite policy is established and it is implemented, so that every part of the country is monitored. Every part of the country gets information. Every part of the country is given data on how to establish their behavioral patterns, so that they will be very much aware on what is happening every season, every time of their lives. We have had devastating effects on our communities, because some don't know. They use the traditional methods like the moon to predict what is going to happen. For example, we have cases of communities citing the moon to predict or to count the number of days they have to wait for it to rain. We have had some using the stars, looking at the alignment of the stars to predict what is going to, when the rains are going to, when it's going to rain, or when certain events are supposed to be happening. Mr. Speaker, gone are the days when we should be relying on such happenings in the 21st century. We should have a satellite-based policy which we should be using. We should just be like the other parts of the world, the first world, where technology has taken root, and you find that everything can be predicted and for an entire year, and people are given information for a whole year. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this motion, and I hope that it is given the support it deserves until the time the policy is well established and implemented and monitored to the best way possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once more again, I support Abdul Arrow for bringing this motion to the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity I rise to support this. Mr. Speaker, we have to live in the modern world. We cannot continue to do things in the old way. And climate monitoring and focusing is extremely important, because there are very clear areas where we need to have this information. One is what everybody knows about is climate change. The climate is changing because of the weather patterns will differ, and we need to predict this so that we plan whatever we are doing in a short term and in the long term. If we don't have information, we cannot do that. Mr. Speaker, in this country, to a large extent, we still depend on rain-fed agriculture. And if you are going to depend on rain-fed agriculture, we have to know exactly when the rains are coming, and then prepare the land and prepare the planting accordingly. We know that our farmers actually don't believe when we get prediction from our weather experts. because we are not using up-to-date methodology, so that we plant when the rains are not coming and we lose the seeds, we lose the fertilizers. So this will make it predictable. In fact, in some countries, if there is prediction of when planting should be done and the rains don't come, the farmers can sue the meteorology departments. Now we can't do that because we have not given them the technology that they require. So it is important. Mr. Speaker, look at air transport, even land transport. People move across the world, large numbers of people. We know that air transport is probably the safest. Being in a plane is 100 times safer than being in a car. And that is because we have to know the wind movement, rain movement, and all that. So that is extremely required. Even if you're not going in planes, even on the ground, even in the lake. We lose in the lakes. In Lake Victoria, for example, if we can predict and tell the fishermen that this is how the winds are going to be, this is how the currents are going to be, so many people will be saved. And we can be accurate up to hours or even minutes if we use a satellite. So that is important. Mr. Speaker, we need also to predict animal migration, bird migration, even disease vectors. So if we can know that the birds are migrating in this time, like now in the world, there's a problem that people are worried about. In the Arctic, in the island of I think St. George's, there is bird flu amongst the birds. Now, if we don't know how the birds are moving and we can't predict how the birds are moving, we can end up with an epidemic that we are not aware of. Even just mosquito control, we have been distributing nets. We actually need to know exactly when to distribute nets. When we are doing indoor residual spraying for control of mosquitoes, we need to know when the rains are going to be and when the mosquitoes will then breed, and when do we then give the nets, and when do we do the spraying. Disaster management, we are discussing a bill in the House on disaster management, disaster preparedness. The biggest disasters we have here are actually drought, floods, landslide. And all of these all are things that we can predict if we have good weather forecasting and monitoring. And the only way to do it is to actually go digital and get these satellites in the air and protect our people, predict disasters, predict diseases, predict when to plant, and so that we live in harmony with the environment. With that, Mr. Speaker, I do support.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Dagoretti South. You want to speak on this? Okay. The Honorable Yusuf. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion by Honorable Haro. Mr. Speaker, now in this world, now being the era of technology, we need to embrace technology and IT. What Mr. Haro has today brought is something that we need to impress as a country. You can remember, Mr. Speaker, during the floods and the drought season, there was a lot of confusion when the meteorology department gave a warning on the floods and the drought. Even the president himself, Mr. Speaker, has doubted the verdict or the announcement by the meteorologists. That clearly shows the method that we are using now. It's outdated, it cannot be relied upon, it's not accurate, and it is time now to migrate from that kind of outdated technology to a new level of technology. Mr. Speaker, as we are aware, this country, a lot of things are happening. The country is shifting from analog to digital. And it is also the right time to shift from the original method of focusing to satellite way of doing. From where I come, Mr. Speaker, in northern Kenya, it is very, very difficult for the meteorologists and even the locals to understand, determine, and focus the weather. Mr. Speaker, the climate has changed, and now it has completely disrupted everything and everything that the traditional people were used to do. Mr. Speaker, people used to look at the moon, others used to look at the stars, others used to look at the sky to confirm and know exactly when the rains are near or when drought is coming. But now, since this climatic change has happened, everything went upside down. It's the people are unable to predict exactly what time will they expect rain, what time will be a drought season, and therefore this must necessitate a different method of focusing on this kind of focusing on weather. Mr. Speaker, on developed countries, for example, we're in the month of Ramadan, Mr. Speaker. In Saudi Arabia, they use satellites to see the moon before we see here in Kenya. That has clearly shifted the dimension of how the moon are sighted in this world. Now, it is the same thing. If we also use satellite to predict, to focus the weather and see exactly what time we're expecting rain, and people get prepared in terms if there is a drought, the livestock, the pastoralists migrate to look for better pasture and water, or if they're expecting rain, they can stay in their particular area. Mr. Speaker, this motion is a motion that came at the right time. It's a motion that we all need to support. It's a motion that we must all impress as a country so that we get accurate data from the meteorologists. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Member for Mogosho.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This motion, as has been said by other members here, is a timely motion because in our country for far too long we have been relying on traditional ways of forecasting. Some looking at the stars, some looking at the animal intestines to predict the weather patterns and whether the rain will rain or not. These have caused our farmers very serious losses in terms of planting and cattle keeping because you don't know the weather patterns and you don't know whether it will rain or not, and we rely on rainfall for our farming and our livestock. Mr. Speaker, it is more timely that we have this technology to be able to salvage our farmers so that when they are planting, they are sure that the rain will be adequate, so that our livestock keepers will know that whether there will be pasture or no pasture, they know that they can reduce the number of herds and the number of livestock to be able to survive through the hard climate change times that we are in. We are faced by serious climate change impacts from which is a global phenomenon, but the best we can do is to be able to prepare our people, our citizens, for such hard times and hard climate times, so that they be better fast with the knowledge of the changing patterns, because unlike before, the climate change has made the pattern different. Sometimes it's due to rain in April, due to rain in March, but sometimes you find raining in January, which is an odd phenomenon where some of us come from. So to be able to cure this, the best thing is that we embrace technology. The only way that we can embrace technology is supporting this motion, so that we are in a position as a country to lead through our population, to lead through our people in a more organized and more predictable times in terms of our climate patterns. Mr. Speaker, sometimes people resolve to be living in myth because of lack of this data and lack of the technology and information. In where I come from, Mr. Speaker, and sometimes I wish when the Ministers of Environment come here, I will want to ask here, when it's about to rain in my place, there's an airplane which usually goes, something that it sprays, it has a cloud seeding that makes the rain to disappear. So to avoid such and to be able to be in a more safer in terms of preparedness environment, let's support this motion. I support Mr. Speaker. It is the wish of this House, it is the wish of this nation that we caution. We are here on behalf of the people. Our interest is that of the people. The more we can safeguard these people from losses such as planting, when we know, well, there will not be enough rain to sustain those maize or maybe beans or what have you, will be leading them into more losses, and to save them from such losses, Mr. Speaker, we support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, there being no further interest on this matter, I call upon the mover now to reply. I cannot see your card. No problem, Molu. You just put the card now. You want to speak on this? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving the opportunity to add my voice on this motion. Honorable Speaker, it is true there are changes and the changes of time. The world is changing. We are changing from being where we come from, bush, from being a stone age, growing to be somewhere in technology. Sometimes in this country, we normally listen to weatherman. I don't know whether it's the equipment normally used or the system used to get the rain forecast, to get the advice of what's happening with the weather. But if to embrace technology is going to cure these challenges, it is going to help. Sometimes, last year, you were able to see how the climate change and affected some areas like Kajiado, also Isiolo, towards to Kambani region. The full area was dry. The only advice we had from the weatherman, he said that they are going to be very heavy rain. He gave the whole country. The scenario which he gave is like we are expecting some massive rain coming somewhere, which Kenyans we are told to be ready for a very big rain. To be point and factual to weatherman, it is true he said there will be a lot of rain. We Kenyans, we are happy to have the rain because you can see even what is happening in the country. What has happened in the country, because we have water, the country is green, the harvest is good, you can get milk, you can get maize cheap because of the rain. So this is why we say that it is very important if we can embrace technology and the weatherman give us the exact number, the exact reading of latitude, the exact reading of when the rain is coming, it will be better for the country. And that's why I raise to support the motion, and also not only say it is timely, it must be implemented. Honorable Speaker, we have been passing many motions in this House. Many motions in the other parliament, we went through them, we passed them. I can see them coming back again in just language of drafting. So it is always important we see implementation committee. When we pass the motion, how far it go, how did the departmental, the government departmental agencies handle this issue? So thank you for giving me this chance, and I support, and I tell the weatherman, please, scientifically, we want you to be factual to the technology, not be like herbalist. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Ganze, Honorable Charo Kazungu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I want also to say that I support this motion by my dear friend, the Honorable Haro. And I want to say that it is a motion that has come in a very timely moment. And as a country right now, Mr. Speaker, we have no otherwise but to embrace technology, especially in predicting the weather and mitigating the effects of climate change. Mr. Speaker, as a country, we have been using archaic technology to predict the weather. That's why most of the time as a country, we have been way off the mark. And this is happening because we are using technology that is outdated. Case in point, Mr. Speaker, last year there was a prediction that there will be El Nino. And then somewhere midway, the El Nino was downgraded, and it was said that it will only be some rains, though they'll be a bit heavy, but it will not be El Nino. Only, Mr. Speaker, it happened that actually it is an El Nino that happened. And this was occasioned by the fact that maybe the kind of technology that we are using to predict the weather in the country is not of the required modern technology. So we have seen that things have changed nowadays, and the era of the days where we used to look at the stars, we used to look at the position of the moon to maybe forecast what is going to happen in terms of weather, those days are long gone. And the trend currently is people to use the satellite technology. So as a country, we need to adapt this technology as fast as possible. I have listened to my colleagues contributing to this motion, and all of them are talking about how this technology will assist farmers to do timely planting and also to plan on how they're going to go about tilling their land. But also, Mr. Speaker, this technology will not only help farmers, but also the government in planning for service delivery. We know that when planning to do roads, we need also to know to exactly know the conditions of the weather at that particular time, because it will be foolhardy for a government to plan on rehabilitation of roads only for them to be washed away the next day because they did not have a good understanding of the weather patterns of that area. So much as we are saying this is a technology that can assist our farmers, but it can also go a long way in helping the government to plan to deliver services to wananchi. Again, technology will help the government in disaster preparedness. Case in point, like what happened during the drought last year. This kind of drought caught the government flat-footed. It didn't know, it had not planned for it. That's why we had to come here in Parliament and use the Article 223 of the Constitution to do some emergency relief supplies to the areas affected by the drought. Had the government, if the government had modern technology to predict the weather, I think such scenarios would have been forecasted long time ago, and the government would have prepared well to avert such kind of situations. So with those few remarks, I want to say this is a very timely motion, and we need as Parliament to support it. And again, after we pass it, the motion here in Parliament, it is now the onus of the government to make sure that it is implemented so that Kenyans can get the benefits of it. With those few remarks, I support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Kitutu Chache North, Honorable Japheth Nakundi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to support this motion on development on satellite-based climate change. You know, the world has gone digital, and as a country, we have been left behind in terms of the weather forecast and the rest. You know, like last year, at a time like this, we were told that there is no El Nino, and for sure, later on, we came and found out that there was a lot of El Nino, which made us come back to this house and make sure that we pass some few bills here and there to make sure that people from other areas get relief food that were affected by the El Nino. So I want to support this motion, Mr. Speaker, because as you know, last year, most of the time we are told that there is rain and there is no rain. This setting up of the satellite and going digital will help even the government and the farmers to prepare enough in terms of the planting season, in terms of the harvesting season. And you know, like last year, we had a very good weather, which made us get a lot of produce. Last year, we got maize from our bags moved from 40 million bags to about 67 million bags. But if we go digital, we'll be able to know quite enough. We'll be able to arrange ourselves, or the government will be able to arrange itself in terms of when to give out, even if it's fertilizer. You know, this time the rains will be coming, this time is the time we're going to harvest. So it will be able to assist us in terms of our preparedness, in terms of agriculture, in terms of other things. So I want to support this motion, and I say I'm part of this motion, and we will surely support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Alego Usonga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this motion. Honorable Speaker, climate change is today the biggest conversation globally. And the world over, each and every country is looking for ways in which they can be able to manage the effects of climate change. And the reason why this is happening, Honorable Speaker, is because in our everyday life, we are meeting the effects of climate change. From rising temperatures, from unpredictable rainfalls, from drought and all these issues. So, Honorable Speaker, it is really late for us that to date we do not have a scientific way of checking or knowing predicting the climatic issues, the climate change issues. Honorable Speaker, today it is normal for the weather people to predict that there will be rainfall tomorrow, or there will be no rainfall, or vice versa. And when you wake up, the reverse happens. Like when they predict that there will be rainfall, it doesn't rain. So, Honorable Speaker, this is happening because as a country we have not determined a scientific and predictable way of determining the climatic situations. So, Honorable Speaker, this is the reason why I think this motion is timely, and I would like to urge government that once this motion is passed, we need to see government moving quickly and adopting this motion as has been passed here in the House. Honorable Speaker, we cannot wait. We cannot wait. We cannot live in abyss. We cannot live in like we are living in the past, in the colonial traditional way. In the past, our ancestors had traditional ways of checking and knowing, predicting the climatic issues. But today we cannot do that. We must live in the modern times, and because the effects of climate change are so severe, it requires that we must be up to date. Honorable Speaker, that is my observation, and I want to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Ariada, you want to speak on this motion? Okay. Okay. All members, that probably marks the end of debate on this motion. I will therefore now call upon the mover of this motion to reply. The Honorable Haro.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Before I reply, I would like to give 2 minutes to Honorable Dorothy Mudhoni. She would want to make a contribution to this motion. And also 2 minutes to Honorable Makali Kandui.
Honorable Makali, I would advise you to just go up there and get a card. It's not here. That's why I've not given you so far. I can't see it. You don't have a chance. I can't see it. Honorable Kiara, go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to really thank the mover of this motion, Honorable Haro, for bringing this very, very important motion before the floor of this House. As a country, Honorable Speaker, it's important and imperative for us to embrace technology. Honorable Speaker, this motion is very timely because as a country, we have in the last few years experienced severe climate changes. And developing a satellite-based climate change monitoring policy is the way to go. Technology will help us to accurately monitor and fast-track the climate weather patterns. Honorable Speaker, this information will not only be reliably used by the citizens, it will also help the government to plan for mitigation, mitigations through which they can be able to map out the country and know what to plan for the future. Honorable Speaker, we have had El Nino. It was not properly planned for. The government acted haphazardly. Honorable Speaker, if we embrace technology and this satellite, we will be able to know when every area will rain. We will be able to know which area is severely affected by drought. We should also be able to know which area we will plant which crop. So, Honorable Speaker, I really want to thank the mover of this motion, and I want to say this is the way to go. Embrace satellite technology. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable John Makali.
Give me the mic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also weigh in on this motion, despite the difficulties we're having with our cards. First, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Member for bringing this motion, coming after a successful climatic change conference held in this particular country. As a result of that conference, Honorable Speaker, you realize that we are having serious problems with the climatic change and the adverse effects of flooding and drought. And it's very important, therefore, Honorable Speaker, that we refocus back on investing in technology so that we can be able to weigh in on the adverse effects of climatic change. When we were growing up, Honorable Speaker, we used to use traditional methods of weather forecast. We remember the usual program on KBC of Ayub Shaka, trying to forecast the weather forecast for the following day. But we are now beyond that using the traditional systems. We now need to develop a policy, an IT policy, that will be able to ensure that we can be able to monitor effectively and with some accuracy the effects of climatic change. And Honorable Speaker, no other ministry is better placed than the Ministry of Environment and Forestry to be able to take a pioneering lead in this particular exercise. We need to invest in information technology because that is one of the key elements this government is focusing on digital development. And it will be important, Honorable Speaker, that we can be able to develop a policy that will be able to invest in IT and embrace technology as we have impressed in security matters in this particular country. Honorable Speaker, I wish to support the motion and pray that we put in place effective legislation to ensure that we have a policy that governs climatic change in this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Abdul.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to reply. First of all, Honorable Speaker, I will take this opportunity to thank all the honorable members who have contributed to this motion. They have made very useful contributions that will go a long way in enriching this motion. Honorable Speaker, what this motion is seeking is a prayer that this House resolves that the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry develops a policy on IT that deploys the use of satellites in the monitoring and forecasting of climatic conditions with the objective of ensuring timely and accurate data collection to enhance the country's capacity to respond to weather-related risks and vulnerabilities, including climate change. Honorable Speaker, the honorable members who have made their contribution to this motion have actually made very useful contributions. One uniform thread throughout the contribution the honorable members have made is the fact that reliance on traditional mode of climate monitoring is outdated, and that Kenya needs to move to the next stage. like the other nations in the developed world have done, to use climate, to use a satellite for climate data collection so that we can have more reliable, more accurate, and more efficient climate information that can be used to assist our communities who are living in fragile environments and who have suffered deep sufferings from the impact of rapidly changing climatic conditions and especially climate change. Honorable Speaker, I thank Honorable KJ when he said that this satellite-based technology can be married with the new technology like the AI so that we can have more reliable, more efficient data for climate. And I think that was very, very useful, and it will go a long way in enriching this motion. Honorable KJ also went a long way in informing us that we are now in the 4th industrial revolution, and technologies like this will be very helpful for this country, not forgetting the fact that this is an opportunity to also partner with other developed countries who are already using satellite technology to predict their climate conditions and weather, like for example the US, the Japan, South Korea, China, and India, countries who have used this technology for many years to predict. Like for example in the US, they predict very, very accurately even the coming of the cyclones, and this can happen even in this country, so long as we have a policy that will move deliberately to making sure that we use satellite technology to collect climate information. Honorable Speaker, the good news is that Kenya launched a satellite, IFA-1, recently, and that satellite makes Kenya become the 12th country in Africa with that kind of a facility, and we will definitely benefit from satellite-based data in order to make sure that we predict our weather, so that our farmers can know when to plant and when to expect drought, so that pastoralists can know when actually to expect dry season and when to expect pasture period, so that we can have proper accurate determination of when we are going to have storm in our lakes, so that we can give information to our people, so that we can know when flights can fly, when maritime ships can dock. All that information can be very helpful to this country. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I will request the Speaker, I will request that you defer putting of question pursuant to Standing Order 53.3. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I would just go back to the mic and say you beg to reply, you reply.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply. Thank you.
Members, we, as requested by the Honorable Abdul, we defer the putting of this question to the next time this motion is put up for decision. Next order.
Order number 13, motion, policy for the provision of mental health services.
So we defer this motion to the next time it's slotted in the order paper. Next order.
Order number 14, motion, providing a safety net for caregivers of persons with severe disabilities.
Honorable, before I call Honorable Kiara, I want to just notify members that from where I sit, and based on the Speaker's communication, if you don't have a card, there's a very special office up there, small office up there, which can always give you a temporary card so that you're able to contribute, because we will not give any member who has no card a chance to contribute. Just walk up there, it takes you 2 minutes only to get a temporary card, then you come and log in and you contribute. Honorable Dorothy Kiara, go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I seek to move a motion to provide safety net for caregivers of persons with severe disabilities. More specifically, it calls upon the government to offer social protection and support to caregivers through implementation of a cash transfer program for this category of persons. The objective of this motion is to alleviate the economic burden of such caregivers, thus improving their quality of life from a social and health perspective. Honorable Speaker, according to the 2019 census report, 2.2%, that is 0.9 million Kenyans live with some form of disability, with majority residing in rural areas. There is an established link between poverty and disability, and approximately over half of persons with disability in Kenya are impoverished. Honorable Speaker, it's important to note that these persons with severe disability cannot be able to engage in any meaningful activity because of the enormous burden that they carry on a daily basis. Cash transfer to people with severe disability is among a national social protection scheme for vulnerable groups. Its overall goal is to support poor households and have a member living with severe disability that requires around-the-clock care. A regular transfer of the 2,000 shillings per month is paid to only the beneficiaries by monthly basis. Honorable Speaker, while the Social Assistance Act 2013 provides for social assistance of persons with disability, it is very silent on caregivers' welfare. The Act includes care in residential institutions in the definition, financial assistance, but it does not mention caregivers. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides in Article 28 that every person has inherent dignity and the right to have that dignity respected and protected. While Article 43 asserts that every person has the right to social security and requires the state to provide appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves or their dependents. Honorable Speaker, caregivers for persons with severe disabilities tend to be relatives and friends, which reduces expenditure on formal care. However, the policy and legal framework, as well as programs that support services, tend to ignore the needs and welfare of caregivers who do not typically receive training or remuneration. Since caregivers cannot meaningfully participate in income-generating endeavors, they may rely on the assistance of others and as such could greatly benefit from the government-sponsored services, including sufficient financial support. Honorable Speaker, caregivers face a myriad of challenges while providing care for this special category. Caregivers often sacrifice employment to take care of persons with severe disabilities who cannot be able to do anything for themselves. Honorable Speaker, this has made it impossible for a person or a family taking care of a severely disabled person to leave them on their own. Honorable Speaker, insufficient support and resource contributes to the caregiver's burden, which may lead to a reduction in the quality of the care provision. Broader impacts on the family, which include marital dissatisfaction, isolation, stigma, and reduced social interaction with other community members. Honorable Speaker, their own needs and obligations, which they are also unable to perform or invest in their human capital as they are preoccupied with caregiving duties. Loss of jobs and productivity is inevitable as they now focus their attention on a family member with severe disability. Their quality of life is closely linked to caregivers' burden, and reducing this burden can improve their quality of life. Financial implication of having children or persons with severe disability include reduced family income, significant high financial demands, and poor access to material and services as resources are transferred to these people. Honorable Speaker, the demands for caregiver and lack of support may give rise to negative consequences for their physical and psychological well-being, which may cause further financial stress and may result in them abandoning their caregiving role. Psychological issues that face parents and caregivers of children and persons with severe disability include stress, feeling of guilt, low self-esteem, negative emotional behavior, worrying about the future of these children, anxiety and depression. Honorable Speaker, caregivers dedicate their lives to caring of these persons with disability, and they cannot even undertake civic duties, even voting. Honorable Speaker, it is therefore for this particular reason, that is the reason why I'm urging these members to support this particular motion, bearing in mind, Honorable Speaker, that anybody and any one of us seated in this house can be a candidate of severe disability, Honorable Speaker, because when you don't know when disability will strike. We have had people who have had accidents, Honorable Speaker, and at the end of the day, they find themselves completely incapacitated and completely unable even to do the normal courses that they used to do for themselves. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge this House, as I conclude, let us all support this motion. We are not only supporting for these children and persons with severe disability, we are also supporting this motion for our own safety, because at one stage in life, you will never know when you need care and attention from one of your relatives, friends, or even your wife. Honorable Speaker, it is very dismaying to note that mothers who get severely disabled children, sometimes they are left to take care of these children on their own, because in most incidents, when men realize that there is a huge burden of taking care of a severely disabled child, they tend to run away. Honorable Speaker, and as nature has added, there are parents who are very unfortunate that you see a parent who has given birth to one child with very severe disability. He or she is also a candidate of giving birth to another severely disabled child. So to alleviate the burden of these children, I urge this House to support this motion. And Honorable Speaker, I want to ask Honorable Marumi Njendi to second this motion, MP for Marava. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Malulu, the Honorable Ijendi.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I arise to...
Sorry, Honorable Ijendi. Please take your seat. Honorable members, before the seconding of the motion, this morning, seated in the public gallery, I would like to recognize students from Kamuwongo Secondary School, Mwingi North constituency in Kitui County, students from Kieni Secondary School, Subukia constituency in Nakuru County, and Lizi Wanyoike Preparatory School in Ruiru constituency, Kiambu County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to observe proceedings of the House. You may proceed, Honorable Marulu Ijendi, to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I arise to second this motion by citing the chapter on the Bill of Rights in the Kenyan Constitution 2010 that provides for employment of economic and social rights under Article 43(1)(a) to F on 6 sectors, which include health, adequate food, and of acceptable quality, housing, clean and safe water, social security, and education. Madam Speaker, I even want to start, as I second this motion, with the 2,000 that the persons with severe disability receive every month. Madam Speaker, from where we sit, where we stand, maybe members should also ask themselves, is 2,000 sufficient to take care of the Bill of Rights as is quoted, is cited in chapter 43? Madam Speaker, is not sufficient. This is an amount that the government came up with sometimes back. Maybe it's a moment, looking at the economic times presently, that we can review. So, Madam Speaker, when you look at this, then compare it also to the persons who give care to the person with severe disability, it's really a situation that we really have to come in as a parliament and persuade ourselves to assist this particular person, because you find that most of the persons who do this work, who give this care, Madam Speaker, it's a full-time employment. And most of these persons, Madam Speaker, are usually mothers. If not mothers, they are children who are supposed to be going to school, but they are assigned the role of giving care to these particular persons. So, Madam Speaker, I'm quoting the 2,000 because in most cases, like I see in my constituency, in most cases you find that these particular caregivers resort also to sharing these 2,000 from the persons who are supposed to benefit from it. So, Madam Speaker, for us to ensure that these persons really are leading this kind of life, quality life, decent life, is to ensure that when we are giving the 2,000 to this particular person with disability, the government should also consider allocating an amount to these particular givers. And Madam Speaker, I would propose an amount that is higher than this, because these are persons who are on full-time. These are persons who also have other responsibilities that they have to take care of when they are giving this particular support. Madam Speaker, what I would also urge the government, maybe to look at the government which I belong to, is to juxtapose. Supposing these particular persons are taken into an institution for caregiving, it would cost the government a lot of money. But you see, communities or families have volunteered to take care of these particular persons, whereby we need some support so that this person can also lead a decent life. Madam Speaker, most families that suffer this are poor families, because they have no other source, they have no other person they can run to help providing this care. And Madam Speaker, therefore, it's very important during this particular time in our country that we have to consider ensuring that we give some money to these particular persons who do this work. Madam Speaker, you realize that the kind of disability we are also referring to is so severe that it requires so much care. Madam Speaker, a part of this care is, for example, feeding these particular persons. The other one is ensuring that, Madam Speaker, when they go for some natural call, toilets, Madam Speaker, we have these persons who take care of them. Madam Speaker, we can only improve on the ego of these particular persons. We can only improve on the life of these particular persons when actually we are giving them something that can ensure that they are also very proud of the kind of work they're providing to these particular persons with this kind of disability. So, Madam Speaker, it's a moment for us maybe to start empowering families, because I'm aware of a family in my constituency where a family has 6 children and all of them are of disability. Madam Speaker, this is a family that has to take care of these children in terms of needs, in terms of food, in terms of education, and the government does not provide for the family at all. So, Madam Speaker, I rise to second this motion and second the Honorable Member Dorothy Muthoni for coming up with this motion that will ensure that most Kenyans during this particular regime enjoy their lives as stipulated in Chapter 3 of our Constitution. I second.
Thank you. Thank you very much, honorable members. Before I propose the question, I would like to recognize our guests. Seated in the speakers gallery this morning, we have students from Utumishi Boys Academy from Gilgil constituency, Nakuru County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to observe proceedings of the House. Honorable members, I now propose the question that, aware that Article 21(3) of the Constitution provides that all state organs have the duty to address the needs of vulnerable groups within the society. Further, aware that the Persons with Severe Disabilities Cash Transfer Program, PWSDCT, is one of the 4 cash transfer programs implemented by the government as part of the overall social protection interventions, noting that caregivers undertaking the immense responsibility of providing daily care and assistance to persons with severe disabilities are oftentimes the immediate family members of the PWSD, concerned that these causes are disproportionate burden on these families, as persons who would otherwise be engaged in gainful employment or other activities to provide for the families are limited to these immense responsibilities. Further concerned that this loss of income opportunities and resources exacerbates the challenges faced by these families, cognizant that the government ought to take action to recognize the invaluable contribution of caregivers and support them in caring for individuals with severe disabilities. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the government, through the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, recognizes primary caregivers of persons with severe disabilities, and social protection recognizes the primary caregivers of persons with severe disabilities, PWSD, as distinct category requiring social protection and support, and further develops and implements a cash transfer program for these primary caregivers. Honorable members, before we go to debate, I would like to give a communication. Honorable members, pass 1 to Standing Order 41(1) of the National Assembly Standing Orders. I wish to report to the House that I have received a message from the Senate regarding the passage of the Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 75 of 2023. The message conveys that on Wednesday, 12th March 2024, the Senate considered and passed the bill with amendments. Honorable members will recall that on Wednesday, the 21st February 2024, the National Assembly considered and passed this bill with amendments, following which the Speaker referred the bill to the Senate for consideration pursuant to provisions of Article 110(4) of the Constitution. In this regard, the message and the schedule of the amendments is hereby referred to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and the Departmental Committee on Housing, Urban Planning and Public Work to jointly consider and report to the House. I further direct the clerk to circulate these amendments to all members in accordance with Standing Order 145. Honorable members, noting the urgent nature of this bill, I urge the 2 committees to expeditiously consider the amendments to the bill and submit a report to guide and enable the House conclude the next steps. Additionally, the committees are encouraged to liaise with the sponsor of the bill in processing the Senate amendments. The House is accordingly guided. Thank you. Honorable members, opportunity for debate now goes to the Honorable Peter Kihungi, that is on the motion, motion number 14. You may proceed, Honorable Kihungi. Member for Kangemi. I see a point of order by the member for The Honorable Kiari? You are waiting for your turn. You may proceed, Honorable Kihungi. Oh, the Honorable John Waweru, then it's your opportunity now.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. And allow me to start by congratulating the Honorable Mwalimu Ikiara for bringing this very important matter for consideration by the House. And Madam Speaker, what the Honorable Member is doing is that she is pricking our conscience as a nation. She is pricking our conscience for us to consider what we do with the least among us in our society. Madam Speaker, it is a good book that teaches us that whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. Honorable Speaker, what she is doing here is not primarily for the caregivers. It is actually for the Kenyans who are living with severe disability. And Madam Speaker, because of that, I do stand to support. Madam Speaker, in my contribution, I shall also be making some bills that might be useful for the Honorable Ikiara when she decides to promote these into a bill to go beyond a motion. Madam Speaker, by providing a stipend for the caregivers who are taking care of the very severely disabled in this country, Madam Speaker, we are doing a number of things. We are giving an assurance for better quality care for these persons, Madam Speaker. We are also making sure that we are recognizing the efforts of these individuals who do the work that not every other individual would do voluntarily, Madam Speaker. We are also ensuring some social inclusivity, Madam Speaker, because you find that this job is normally relegated to the people who have been demoted to the lowest caste of this society, to a point where we might even be discriminating in the way that we treat the caregivers who are taking care of our severely disabled, Madam Speaker. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, we recognize that there is a ground norm that allows and provides for fair remuneration for anybody who undertakes any responsibility, and especially if they are signing some good hours to it. But Madam Speaker, recognizing the benefits that are built into this motion, I would want to put in a very serious build, Madam Speaker. And the build, and Madam Speaker, if you would allow me, I would want the mover to be allowed, at least not to be obstructed from your vision, Madam Speaker, so that she might be able to take the notes. Madam Speaker, the big build that I would like to put to this is the consideration of whether we as a country would want to move towards being a welfare state. Madam Speaker, if you look at your order paper, you shall realize that later on in our proceedings, we shall be looking at a motion that shall be brought here by the Honorable Majimbo Kalasinga. It shall be looking to review the eligibility age for enrollment of older members of the society to the Inua Jamii Cash program, Madam Speaker. The question begs, Madam Speaker, does our 4 trillion Kenya shilling economy, is it capable of supporting all the safety net programs that we are putting on loading onto our budget? This is a critical question we ought to ask ourselves, Madam Speaker. And when we ask this question in context of the motion that has been brought here by the Honorable Dorothy Kiara, we shall find that a stipend can only be a short-term measure and a short-term response to this problem. The long-term response, Madam Speaker, ought to be the institution of systems and programs and institutions that can take better care of our people living with severe disability. So much so, Madam Speaker, that we shall be able to formalize the whole arrangement of giving care to our people with disability, so that it is not a burden that is left only to the family, and as such ending up relegating it to the people who do not have jobs in the family to take care of their caregivers. The point I'm making, Madam Speaker, is that while this is an extremely good proposal, it can only serve on the short term. This country shall be called upon to think about how we are providing for policies, how we are providing for legislation, how we are providing for frameworks and structures, but even the physical brick and mortar institutions that shall take care of our people living with severe disability, so that we do not end up running the risk of making this country a social welfare country with an economy that cannot support the social welfare that we are talking about, Madam Speaker. As I had alluded, Madam Speaker, we already have the Inua Jamii Cash Program. And even on this cash program, we are looking to expand it to carry a bit more Kenyans. But when you think about it, Madam Speaker, there are only very few Kenyans who are meaningfully, and I dare say, formally employed. Madam Speaker, you might find that each individual who is earning a salary or having a payslip is carrying on their back no less than 10 or 11 other Kenyans on that payslip, Madam Speaker. So much so that you might ask, if we were to make this country as a social welfare state, would we be able to afford? So, Madam Speaker, while I do support the idea that we need to be thinking about how we deal with the caregivers, I also want to put it that we as a country should see this only as a short-term measure, as we put the institutions that would give a more comprehensive and a more sustainable care to the people who need it most, and in this case, the people who are living with severe disability. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the Honorable Dorothy Kiara for such a brilliant motion that pricks on our conscience and makes us think about the least amongst our society. Honorable Dorothy Kiara, this is a good motion. You are a good person and you shall go to heaven because of this. Thank you very much. Madam.
Thank you, Member for Dagoretti South. The Honorable James Nikal, Member for Seme.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this motion. And I want to just make a few comments. When the program for supporting the severely disabled was started, the definition of severely disabled was a person who is so disabled that they need somebody to take care of them. And that definition, therefore, indicated that the funds that was being given was to assist the caretaker to look after this disabled person. But it was completely ignored the person who was actually looking after the severely
Honorable Member for Seme is normally very consistent. Normally very consistent, and his thoughts are very clear, well thought. I think the problem you have is the member for Alego Usonga. So I request that you stop distracting.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When we started the program for the severely disabled, the definition of severely disabled rested on the fact that the person was so disabled that they needed another person to look after them, and that is the caregiver. So it was seen at that time that you need to assist this person to have the means with which to help the disabled person. And it is true that it did not take into consideration the welfare of the caregiver, because it is so severe that the caregiver cannot do anything else and is actually on a full-time job looking after this person. Therefore, this motion actually raises that issue. What do we do to the caregiver who is now tied up looking after this person? But Madam Speaker, the other point I want to raise is, as time went by, we had elderly persons who did not need caregivers, but they are getting cash transfer. We had severely disabled who are getting cash transfer, but had caregivers. But what has happened over the years since it started in 2017, 2018, as the elderly people grew in number and in age, many elderly persons actually have started to require caregivers. So the two cash transfers have actually merged for the severely disabled and for the elderly persons. Therefore, I think this bill actually should now be looked at, taking care of not just severely disabled as defined before, but also very aged elderly persons who are getting cash transfer. And they have actually lost money because they were not assigned caregivers. So that's extremely important. But the other thing is indicated, now when you look at the severely disabled and the elderly persons, the number of severely disabled from other causes is much smaller compared to the number of elderly persons who now need caregivers and also now to some extent severely disabled. What it then brings us to, Madam Speaker, is to look at the issue of the elderly who are also severely disabled just because they are old and they need another care. And people have thought of old people's homes, but actually if we can support the elderly with the stipends we are giving, however severely old they are and what they need some support, and we also support the people who are looking after them as the caregivers, it can bring us to a situation where in this country, instead of taking elderly persons who are severely disabled to old people's homes, we can actually look after them at home and help those homes in a way that the elderly get some cash transfer and the people who look after them get some cash transfer. Madam Speaker, that is the point I wanted to bring, that merger is important and we must look at care of the elderly. They will form a much bigger group of the severely disabled.
What is your point of order, Honorable John Waweru, member for Dagoretti South?
Madam Speaker, I would imagine that you know how seriously I take the Honorable Dr. Nikal. And that's why, Madam Speaker, I rise to find out whether the Honorable member for Budalangi is in order to be consulting in such high tone notes while we are getting such an important contribution from the very esteemed Dr. Nikal. Honorable Speaker, that is I seek to find out if the Honorable member for Budalangi is in order to be consulting in such high tones.
Thank you for the consideration. But I think I've ended my point by saying
Honorable Nikal, the point of order, are you responding to the point of order or you are continuing with
I've just made a slight reference to it and I'm continuing with all
I would like to make a comment. I did not notice, the speaker did not notice the distraction by the member for Budalangi. So I allow the honorable member for Senate to proceed.
Yes, and I make my final point. When we're looking at this, when we look at the severely disabled, let's start looking at people who are very old, very elderly, who also need assistance, are getting cash transfer, so that if we give their caregivers also some assistance, we can develop in this country a model of looking after the elderly at home. I think that is the point I wanted to make, and with that, Madam Speaker, I support and actually appreciate the honorable member who has brought this motion and should actually proceed to look at the bill, look at the social assistance bill, how it can be amended to take care of this and merge the issue that I'm concerned about. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, a member for Seme. The Honorable Naomi Wako, member for Marsabit County.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute to this very important motion, as I also congratulate Honorable Dorothy Kiara for coming up with this motion that, if implemented, will touch many lives and assist Kenyans who are currently living in a very desperate situation. Honorable Speaker, it is just some few days ago I watched a clip of a young lady from, I think, somewhere in Naivasha, where she said her mom is having some mental illness, and then her brother, her younger brother, is living with disability. And the young lady was at a point of losing hope and getting into depression. And she expressed her frustrations because she cannot even cope with the family life, because the demand that is there from her brother and her mom is so high and she has no one else to help her. She cannot even work because she tried to even work, but she couldn't cope because the attention the two need from her is just overwhelming. And when I watched that, I was so much moved, and I wondered how we can help this young lady. And in the same way, the motion that Honorable Dorothy has brought to this house this morning is something that affects every part of this country, people living with disability, and especially those who are living with severe disability, who need some caregivers, are so much there, and especially in the villages where in some communities, children living with disabilities like a taboo, and they take that as a curse, and they don't want even to associate themselves with those children. They even don't want to talk about them. They even hide them, and in a way that those individuals are even more depressed, and their parents live in stigma. Honorable Speaker, the only good thing that as a country we can do is to associate ourselves with these people, is to own them, and to be responsible enough is to allow this cash transfer so that not only the individuals who are maybe bedridden, but even the caregivers can have some hope. And also, as they take care of them, we know very well that some of them are not even able to work. They are most of the time there, and the care itself needs a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of resources around them. And that is why today we have so many people who are depressed, others who have developed terminal illnesses like blood pressure, diabetes, because they have no hope and they have no one to turn to. And as a country, if our government through the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection can recognize the caregivers of persons living with severe disability and give them this support, then their prayers will have been answered. As we know again, Madam Speaker, in our country today, one of the main challenges that is there is that the economy has been very bad, and people's businesses have come down, and price and the cost of living has gone up. People cannot afford to buy even a packet of milk. Others cannot afford even to have a meal on their table. But if we can approve this, it can be something that can help them, and others, even if they take care of these ones, they'll be able even to send their siblings to school, they'll be able even to take care of themselves, and even the medical care for some of these people. Madam Speaker, sometimes the medical care, the medical attention is quite high, and beside the medical insurance covers that the country is thinking about, there are those things that those covers may not even take care of. But once we do this, then we will be able to take care of them. And as I conclude, by doing this again, we will be a very responsible government, because it is their constitutional right, and again, every government is supposed to take care of its citizens, including those people living with disability, including those people who take care of them. And the only way we can do that is to recognize their needs, to see how best we can help them. And we cannot think of helping them without creating our own wealth. This therefore encourages the entire country to work hard so that we can create our own wealth and grow our economy, so that we can be able to take care of all our financial needs. Madam Speaker, I support this, and it is my prayer that soon and very soon this will be implemented, and that Ministry of Labor and Social Protection will be providing this support and making a lot of difference to those people who cannot speak for themselves, who cannot fight for their right. But if this Honorable House approves this and agree and debate positively on this, then it will have a lot of impact on the people who are already suffering and who are already in a lot of pain because of the poverty they are going through, because of the resources that they need and they do not have. With those few remarks, I support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Samuel Atandi, member for Alego Usonga. You are not able to trace the Honorable Atandi? 050.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this very progressive motion on providing a safety net for caregivers of persons with severe disabilities. Madam Speaker, the government's program for supporting people with disability is something which I commend. And it is something which has really done a lot of help to communities and the people who are suffering from disabilities. But Madam Speaker, when you go to the interior villages, you will find homes where people who are taking care of disabilities hardly do anything productive. Madam Speaker, in those homes where poverty resides, you find that these people, parents and caregivers, are hardly even engaged in agriculture like other people, because some of these people with severe disabilities are people that you have to take care of them 24 hours. Madam Speaker, some of these people cannot move, they cannot even walk. So Madam Speaker, when you are unlucky that you have a child who is in this situation, Madam Speaker, you cannot engage in productive activity. Therefore, Madam Speaker, that the government only supports the people with disability and ignores the caregivers is something which this House needs to address. And that's the reason why I say, Madam Speaker, that this motion is very progressive. Madam Speaker, even the 2,000 shillings that is given to people with disabilities is not sufficient. And this amount does not reflect the changes, the global changes in our currency, the economic situation, the inflation, and all these issues. So, Madam Speaker, even before we get to the fact that we need these caregivers to be supported, the first thing that we need to do is also to increase that amount. That amount has been 2K for a very long time, and it is time that the government increases it. But before we get there, Madam Speaker, these caregivers, they need to be taken care of. I like the fact that the mover of the motion mentioned that disability is not something which is selective. Anybody can be disabled today, Madam Speaker. I can be disabled today, tomorrow I could be walking today, but tomorrow I'm disabled. So, Madam Speaker, this is something that people who are not disabled should discriminate. We should never discriminate, by the way, Madam Speaker. I know that some people feel that disability is not something which is meant for them. But, Madam Speaker, anybody can be disabled, and therefore we need to be very, very careful and serious as a House that the people taking care of people with severe disabilities require government support. Madam Speaker, some of the requirements which we could consider as a House to recommend are housing, things like housing. Madam Speaker, if you go to homes where people are born with disability, the living conditions are not very good. Yeah, even the housing, places for sleeping, even a bed, even a mattress. Madam Speaker, I know that there are some women reps who have been buying mattresses and bedding staff to using guff to their constituents. I really applaud such women reps, Madam Speaker, because there are many homes where people even don't have anywhere to sleep. They sleep on the floor. And some of these disabled, even they don't have dresses, even clothing, everything. So, Madam Speaker, this is a very, very important and a very serious motion, which I want to challenge government to adopt. Madam Speaker, sometimes I get an opportunity like this to question the government's sincerity in some of their policies. Sometimes when these people jump up and down and claim that they are a government that is targeting to help the weak, the poor, the hustlers, and they ignore some of these basic fundamentals of life. So, Madam Speaker, I challenge government, because government is here. Government, you cannot be a sleeping government. If people taking care of caregivers are suffering in our villages, in your homes, and you are a government that is claiming to be concerned with the welfare of the poor, then I think as a government you should be ashamed.
The Honorable
This government take care of this issue.
The Honorable Atandi, which government are you addressing? You have said government is here. And you know this is a house of records. And you are facing my left and you are really addressing them. I haven't seen any point of order from them, but I'm just asking you, which government are you addressing, which is inside this house? Madam
Speaker, government is represented in this house. And you know that on your right
Honorable Njeri Maina, member for Kirinyaga. Madam Speaker, it is very misleading for the honorable member to say that government is this house. If I may, legislative arm of government is part of government. So as a member who represents his people, he is part of government. Honorable Speaker, he has also alluded that the government, the ones he claims, has been mistreating the poor, the PWDs. I want to give him the facts as they are, that as I speak, the cash transfer program has been implemented to be paid on a monthly basis. So let him not come here and assert or speak to issues that he cannot give facts on. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
So you are asking whether it is in order because you raised on a point of order. You know, I know we keep planning. Can you give Jerry the mic again?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. I am asking, is it in order for the honorable member to allude to a government? Which government? Because he is part of government. Also, is it in order for him to say that the government has been mistreating the poor, PWDs, yet there are facts on record that the cash transfer program is now being disbursed on a monthly basis? Thank you.
Let's hear the member for Alego Songa.
Madam Speaker, I don't intend to take a lot of time on this debate.
I would like you to address the matter raised by the Honorable Njeri.
Madam Speaker, the reason why this motion is on the floor. The motion is on the floor because there's deficiency on the part of government in addressing this particular need. And therefore, Madam Speaker, to say that the government has done everything within their ability and means to help the suffering Kenyans is misleading. If that was the case, then I would not be here. This motion would not be on the floor. Madam Speaker, I would like to conclude by saying that this is a very progressive motion, which we need to adopt as a House and urge the responsible ministry or minister or cabinet secretary to quickly ensure that the contents of this motion are adopted and implemented for the betterment of the people of Kenya. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Member for Alego Songa, I would like, I'll end this matter there, but I would like to say that I know that you have read the motion, but in the understanding of the mover of this motion is that government has already done so much in taking care of people with disabilities, and what the Honorable Ikiara is looking forward to is a possibility of supporting those who are taking care of the people living with severe disabilities. I think that is the position, honorable members, as we debate. Before we go to but I must acknowledge that it is much better to deal with you these days than it was to deal with you about 2 or 3 months ago. So, honorable members, before we proceed to debate, I would like to acknowledge students seated in the public gallery from Nanyuki Comprehensive High School from Laikipia East Constituency, Laikipia County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. I would like to give this opportunity to the Honorable Njeri Maina, member for Kirinyaga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support this motion and congratulate Honorable Dorothy. I have noted that she's very avid about matters to do with special interest groups and mental health issues. Honorable Speaker, while Article 54 of our Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides that every person living with disability is entitled to accessibility to assistive devices to become as independent as they can. It goes without saying, Honorable Speaker, but these devices are not always accessible, and if and when they are, persons living with severe disability still need human assistance to cater for their needs. Honorable Speaker, some of these persons living with severe disability need round-the-clock care, and some of them, Honorable Speaker, are actually bedridden. And it therefore goes without saying that the caregivers catering for their needs on a 24/7 basis do not have the luxury of aching and living. It is therefore important that as we progress and appreciate that the government has been disbursing cash transfer program on a monthly basis, that the loophole of the need to cater for the caregivers is addressed by this House, which is why this motion is very timely, because we have to also think about catering for them. Honorable Speaker, given that they cannot make a living, most of these caregivers are family members. So you find that sometimes it is even in child-headed families, because the people who need care sometimes are the parents. So it is important to ensure that we support them and discuss on how we can ensure there's a budgetary allocation to cater for their needs. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I also want to appreciate that members have commended county MPs for trying to cater for the needs of persons living with severe disability. And as I have said several times, we need to enhance the allocation for county MPs so that they can be able to execute their mandate as per the Constitution to cater for that special interest group. Honorable Speaker, I also note that the 2,000 provided is not sufficient in terms of the persons living with severe disability. And as we discuss severe disability, Honorable Speaker, my concern is that perhaps the term might be abused in regard to visually impaired persons who also need 24/7 care, hearing impaired persons who also need someone who has knowledge of sign language so that they can ensure they cater for their needs. So let us also expand the meaning and definition in terms of policy provided by the ministry in regard to that and cater for visually impaired persons and persons who have hearing impairment. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support the motion.
Thank you, Member for Kirinyaga. The Honorable John Mutunga, Member for Tigania West.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to support this motion. Honorable Speaker, we are discussing a very important category of Kenyans today, or people who have had no option other than to offer their care or services with sometimes which they cannot run away from. Honorable Speaker, it sounds like when we think about anything, we believe the government should be able to support. Indeed, our friends in the opposition, and especially the member who spoke just before, the honorable member for Kirinyaga, just believes that anything that the government does is not right, government is mistreating, and that is really the wrong way of approaching politics, because when you talk about government, we understand there are three arms of government. There is the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. So yes, government. We are government here in this house. We only have the minority and the majority side. Speaker, caregivers are people who must give their care, the individuals who must promote assistance and support to others. And the people they are supporting are people who actually need that support. They need the support because they are incapacitated in one way or another. It is important to note that these caregivers have absolutely no option other than just live with those people and therefore support them. Our Speaker, they are living in this country under the same conditions that you are living. They are living under the economic conditions, they are living under the various weather conditions and so on. So they need to live a life as well, and therefore they have needs. These needs need to be met in one way or another. They have somehow been surviving all along, and especially probably through assistance that the government is giving to the people living with disability themselves. Well, Speaker, they need safety net. And the reason why we are saying they need safety net is because they have needs. They are living in the conditions that we are living. Well, Speaker, sometimes caregivers have had to hide their kin, people who are living with disabilities. And the reason why they have had to hide is because probably circumstances are too demanding that they must be able to go and fetch for their own survival. And therefore, they may not really declare the situations of their kin. For us to be able to have these people live normally, for us to encourage them to be able to support these people, we need that kind of support. We need hand-holding. We need cleaning at some point in time. We need food that must also be prepared for them. Then we need to look at their situation and see how we can alleviate their situation. Having said that, Honourable Speaker, I also look on the other side of the government. The government is targeted for anything. Honourable Speaker, when we talk about raising funds or revenue for the government, we hear a lot of noise, especially from the opposition. And this government is bombarded with every need. Yes, indeed, we realize the importance of supporting anything that probably needs to be supported. But this government needs to raise revenue. We are saying do not borrow. We are saying you must be able to reduce the extent to which we are committing this country to other countries. But then we must be able to support or rather to take care of all these issues. Looking at the caregivers, Honourable Speaker, they have to live with these people. And in that case, they may not be able. Some may be so demanding to the extent that they are not able to allow them, to release them to go and fend for themselves. Some may actually be as poor, and for poor people, they need to be salvaged from poverty. An additional burden of having somebody with a disability within a homestead means further impoverization. And that is probably the reason why, one of the key reasons why the mover of this particular motion or the sponsor of this motion brought this issue up. Well, that's where we have various types of disabilities. Mental disability, which may lead to people who need to be even contained. Containment measures will require almost 100% surveillance. Containment measures may also require that you even have extra hands, and therefore people are tied off from looking or fending for themselves. Others have got physical disabilities that may need to be moved from one point to another, that may need to be assisted in various ways. Therefore, the caregiver's time is tied up. Others may have visual disability, where we have somebody must be guided to go places. So the different types of disability demand for the attention of the caregivers. And the caregivers, Honourable Speaker, have not applied to be in this particular situation. They have just found themselves naturally in this situation, and therefore the need for them to be looked into. So we are saying that, Honourable Speaker, there should be consideration for the caregivers. Even as much as we are trying to support the people living with disabilities, there is need for us to look into how can we also encourage the caregivers to continue supporting the livelihood mechanisms or the living standards, improving the living standards of the people who need their care. Madam Speaker, financial instability is common in this country. And we cannot assume that somebody who is not working or who is spending most of their time giving care is earning a living. Therefore, it is important for us to look at how do we support them. Madam Speaker, maybe somebody will ask, how do we get to know who the caregivers are? Because sometimes you may wonder whether it is a parent or the sibling or the brother or the sister. There is need for thorough scrutiny on who actually in a family setup gives this care, so that even if we are supporting some kind of support to the caregivers, we give it to the right people. So there must be some form of registration and linkage. I know people living with disabilities are registered and they have an identity card, and this identity card gives them various other benefits as Kenyans. But the caregivers also need to be practically identified and linked to the care that they are giving, and that is when we would probably have them properly taken care of. Madam Speaker, what kind of safety nets are we talking about? In this particular respect, we are talking about cash transfers. Madam Speaker, we need to broaden our scope. Look at what else can we do to the caregivers. What kind of opportunities can we give to the caregivers? In this country, there's a policy for giving preferential treatment to people living with disabilities. Madam Speaker, it would also be wise for us to look at the relevant legislation that basically needs to include those who are taking care of people living with disabilities, depending on the levels of disabilities and the extent of these disabilities, so that they can also, probably get support from the government or preferential treatment when it comes to getting job opportunities and so on and so forth. So, Honourable Speaker, this motion has come at the right time, and I do support that government may look into possibilities of assisting the caregivers so that they can be able to render those services willingly and happily and live like the other Kenyans, because they are not they are actually discriminated under the circumstances. Honourable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Phyllis Barto, member for Moiben.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise on behalf of the people, the great people of Moiben constituency, to contribute to this very important motion on the safety net for caregivers of persons with severe disabilities. Madam Speaker, it has been said that it is not, anybody can be disabled at any time. You can be very well today, but tomorrow you can be a victim due to the nature of society. Madam Speaker, as I was coming today in the morning, I saw a motorbike rider being hit by a car, and he broke his legs instantly. So disability is not something which is fixed. It can happen to anyone, any of us. Madam Speaker, in as much as Article 28 of the Constitution 2010 provides that every person has inherent dignity and the right to have